Democratic State Representative Mihaela Plesa. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Jack.
So, you have recently urged people to sign a petition to protect in vitro fertilization here in Texas. Why is that?
Well, we need to have education and we need to have advocacy around this issue. As you know, the legislative session is only 140 days every 2 years. And so what happens a lot of time, we get to the House floor and legislation starts moving very quickly. And people are taken aback by some of the laws that we're passing. So what I'm trying to do is get ahead of the game now, let people know what is coming down the pipe if we are not paying attention. This is about getting the ball rolling to protect families, protect women in the state now, so that we can get to work in January to make sure that not only in vitro fertilization, but all alternative reproductive technologies are protected in Texas.
Now, this is a result of what happened in Alabama when the Alabama Supreme Court ruled just recently that in vitro fertilization, or children created by in vitro fertilization, they're considered children legally, right? So, when you heard that, what was your reaction?
My reaction is that common sense and medicine tells us that children and frozen embryos are not the same thing. And this is really dangerous precedent that's been set. And my fear is that we're going to copy and paste this exact type of language here in Texas. And we can't do that. We can't allow that to happen because families have their own unique needs when they're starting off on their family building journey. And any kind of restriction, any kind of interfering with what we already have in the books is only going to make it harder and more expensive for Texas parents.
And what are you looking for specifically here in Texas? What do you want to see?
Well, we need to maintain the standard practice of care, right? We need to make sure that we're not following in the footsteps of what Alabama has done. And so what I'm looking for is for parents to continue having options, for women to continue having freedom. We don't want to limit, right? And we don't want to continue causing fear. When I started my fertility journey, the number one thing doctors and family and friends told me is stress. Stress is a killer. You cannot allow your body to get stressed. You must try to stay relaxed and just enjoy the process, right? Enjoy beginning your family. And I can tell you when rulings like this come down, it makes not just me stressed, but thousands of Texas women who are thinking about joining the family of in vitro patients or other alternatives, right, to starting their family. Because this isn't just about in vitro. This is about surrogacy as well. This is many different factions of what beginning your family planning, what that looks like. And so I'm speaking up, and I hope that lawmakers and advocates, not just in Texas, but across the country and across the aisle, join me in protecting women's freedom.
This is personal.
Absolutely.
And I'm wondering because, you advocate for a number of programs just as a lawmaker when you propose legislation. But now, this is something not only that would benefit the public in your mind, but you as well.
It is, but it's not just about me. Like I've said before, infertility manifests its ways in different ways for different people. What happened, what's going on with me and my family and my partner is very different that could be happening, for instance, with Kate Cox or other women that have come forward. And so that's why protecting options is critical right now. And that's why I'm speaking up. And I hope to be a voice, but one of many voices that I hope will speak up now that we have this petition and that I'm doing interviews like this, because there shouldn't be shame around wanting to start a family. And that's what I'm afraid is going to start happening.
How difficult was it for you to decide to come public, to publicize your family situation?
It's been very difficult, but it's also been very freeing. I think, my fiance likes to remind everybody that infertility isn't just a woman issue. It could also be something that men deal with regularly as well. This is also an issue that's very personal to cancer patients, people that might have to undergo chemotherapy. They have to make these decisions on how they're going to protect their reproductive options in the future. And so I hope to stand with my colleagues, Republicans and Democrats, and for all of us to tell our stories, because I'm not the only one. There's a lot of House members on the House floor that have children and grandchildren due to IVF. And so I just hope to be the first, but I know I'm not going to be the last.
Have you had conversations since all this news broke with not only Democratic lawmakers but Republican lawmakers? And if so, what have they told you?
I've had a lot of people that have reached out to me, a lot of people thanking me for speaking up, a lot of people telling me that they would also like to share their stories. Haven't heard as much conversation from my Republican colleagues as I have from my Democratic colleagues. That is concerning, but I hope to engage with them. I think they're a little bit busy in their primaries right now, though.
And so are you going to file legislation?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to work with some legislators that have already filed legislation around this issue, but I'm also going to keep my eye out on what other states are doing, what other Supreme Courts and judges are doing when they legislate from the bench. And we're going to craft a clean bill to protect all Texas parents at any part of their fertility journey.
I don't know if you saw Governor Abbott's comments recently about this issue. He said that he believes the state should still promote families wanting to expand and have children, but when asked about a state law on this, he stopped short, saying this is still a relatively new issue. So what does that sound like to you?
It's concerning. I'm going to bring up the word again, stress. It makes me feel stressed. This is not a new issue. In vitro has been around for 40 years. As long as I've been alive, in vitro has been around. Actually, the first child that was born due to in vitro has come out and made statements that what Alabama has done is dangerous. And so it's concerning. I get really nervous when the governor talks about women's health. He said he was going to protect women from rape. We see 26,000 cases of rape-related pregnancies in our state. He said that we are going to look at the exemptions to our draconian abortion ban that we have in the state. We went through a legislative session last year with multiple special sessions. Women's health was never a priority for this governor when he called those special sessions. So yeah, I'm a little concerned when the governor says he's gonna look at this issue. I really hope that, him, Ken Paxton, my colleagues look at the science behind this. So yeah, I'm stressed.
So you mentioned Kate Cox before, and that made national headlines. The fact that she had to leave the state of Texas to get an abortion because she had a troubled pregnancy. Have you had any conversations with Republicans about this in the legislature, about perhaps changing the law, changing this aspect of it, making it more clear? Because there's obviously this whole legislation against the state of Texas claiming that state law is not clear enough about when doctors can intervene when there's a troubled pregnancy.
Yeah, and you would think that Kate Cox's trauma would have ended when she had to leave the state to get medical treatment. Unfortunately, she has now recently come out, and other people have recently come out and said that this IVF ruling actually is causing more trauma because these, they might be using in vitro to further their families, right? And so I have not had conversations with my Republican colleagues on this issue. I know that there were conversations on the campaign trail that we were going to look at exemptions for when the mother's life is in danger, or when it's a child that's the victim of rape. But none of those things were addressed last session, right? And when I had the opportunity to have some conversations, All I'm hearing is it's a slippery slope. That exemptions or clarifying language to the abortion ban is a slippery slope. Well, we are sliding down fast and we are going to hit rock bottom. Women are dying. We're still leading the nation in maternal mortality, specifically for women of color in this state. We're seeing pregnancy in teens going up, stillbirths going up. This is a really scary time for women and families that are trying to start or expand their families. And my concern is that last session, I heard a lot about parental rights. I heard very little about the right to be a parent. And that's what I'm going to be addressing in the 89th legislative session.
And are you going to be bringing this up as a campaign issue, because you will be facing a Republican in the fall, and you're in one of the few purple districts in North Texas? So how big of an issue is this going to be for you on the campaign trail?
You know, I think that infertility and family planning is not a Republican or Democratic issue. This isn't an issue that when I went into my doctor's office and I was filling out my forms, like the number one box on the form wasn't political orientation, right? It was like name, address, phone number. And so I don't think that, you know, this is an issue for families. If Republicans want to use this issue as a campaign issue, I definitely think the Democrats are going to win on it.
I also wanted to ask you about another topic which you have spoken out before, and that is school finance. And there was no additional money passed in a special session in the last year for more money for teacher pay raises, and also just for school districts, per student funding. And so now we're starting to hear school districts have passed deficit budgets. They're now looking at having to close some campuses in the next school year. How big of a concern is this to you?
Oh, this is a huge concern. This is the things that I was campaigning on last cycle. Plano ISD, Frisco, Allen, they're all recapture. They all pay into recapture. Plano ISD is one of the largest payers into recapture. And some of these unfunded mandates that the legislature passed last session is costing school districts like Plano ISD in the millions of dollars. So it's extremely concerning when I see Richardson ISD is closing schools. Plano ISD is going to be holding 2 meetings this month to talk about school closures. We need to do something to protect public schools and make sure that our kids are getting the greatest education in this country. And so I'm going to continue fighting to make sure that we close those gaps on some of those unfunded mandates, that we make sure that the money that taxpayers are putting into public education is staying in public education, that those numbers aren't getting conflated in general revenue where we can't have accountability and what I like to call taxparency. Because we really need to be transparent about where the taxpayers' money is going. And so I will be refiling all my legislation that I filed last session on school financing.
And are you looking to work with Republicans?
I'm always looking to work with Republicans. We need to have everyone at the table. That's the only way that we get anything done for the people of Texas. And like I said, these issues, women's reproductive freedom, school finance, these are not partisan issues. These are Texas issues, these are freedom issues, and this is what made the Texas Miracle great. We need to continue promoting them.
Democratic State Representative Mihaela Plesa of Plano, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jack.
We appreciate it.